Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Hammond, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me this evening, we've got KCRA 3, Sean Cunningham. What's going on, Sean?
Oh, not much. Just battling technology issues, I think. I don't know what happened with my little setup, but I'm using AirPods, so hopefully I sound okay. Sorry to keep you all waiting. And I know this is a live show, and I just started looking at the comments. Fantastic.
Yeah. And yes, Corey. Oh no, we suck again. Except for we don't suck, they suck.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm perfectly awesome, like always.
This microphone kind of sucks, I think. I think it might have been on its last legs, but yeah.
All right. Also joining us today, Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. Brenden, how are you?
I am doing well. Nothing all too crazy to report over on my end. I kind of got a handful of candles that I will just slyly flex on you gentlemen really quick that I have to decide between today. We got vanilla birch.
Okay, I think you had that one last time.
I think so. We got a sunrise woods, which
sounds
maybe good for the beaters. Maybe good for the beaters.
For the who?
Our chat.
Our chat.
We didn't agree to this.
I think that.
Sunrise
I think they agreed.
Beaters.
And then we got a stress relief one.
Oh, yeah, let's go with that one today.
Yeah, it might be necessary.
Fire that one up.
String them all together. You got the stress relief for the morning woods
sunrise,
for the beaters.
Sunrise woods.
There's a birch somewhere in there. Yeah.
What is happening?
It smells great. It smells great.
Oh my goodness. What's happening, everybody? Sorry, we're doing a late show. We would have started a half hour ago, but Sean sucks. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah. It's usually how it goes. I'm sorry.
Let's see. Somebody asked me a question in the chat. They said, how did the concert go on Sunday? Actually, the concert was on Saturday. I hate doing this. Gwen Stefani was spectacular. She was absolutely wonderful. She had a ton of energy. She was all over the stage, played a ton of hits. But
careful, choose your words carefully.
But if you're going to ask people to pay $300 a piece for a ticket, you better play for more than an hour and 15 minutes, or you can kick rocks. That was an embarrassment. Not only did she quit at an hour and 15, which maybe it's the casino, maybe it's something else, but to just flick on the lights and go, all right, good night, everyone. Bye. No encore, no nothing. Just like stopped at an hour and 15 minutes for $300 a pop. No,
I'm bringing up her set list from that night just to see what happened. I will say I saw Halsey there. She went a very long time. So typically a lot of the casino, especially in Vegas, casino concerts do run a little brief because they want to get you back into the casino. But yeah, that's unfortunate, man. Sorry.
We saw James Taylor and it was over 2 hours and he's like 300 years old.
She did 20 songs apparently.
Yeah, like on Nitro. Like she had people come up on stage, but was like, you've got to run. You've got 15 seconds to get up here. I've got to go. And it was like, what the hell? Like we're being rushed the whole time. But again, she was pretty spectacular. It's my wife's favorite. So, we're going to drop money on tickets and that's the way it goes. But like for an hour and 15 minutes, like, come on. Just like I was totally put off by that. And then now she is playing with No Doubt at the Sphere. And it's like, man, you do that. I could see her doing that at the Sphere and that's going to cost you even more. Yeah, that's not good. You factor in going to dinner at the steakhouse beforehand. Like
Brenden, Gwen Stefani is the lead singer of No Doubt, and
okay.
Well,
no, I didn't know the No Doubt part actually. Okay. I don't think I've ever heard of that group in my life.
Oh, Jesus!
What
Christ.
in the
But I was trying to think that, like, could I name a Gwen Stefani song? And I'm sure that if some played, I would probably know a lot of it. But
Holler Back Girl.
I can't name one off. Okay.
That's the number one you come up with the top of your head with.
Song.
No, it's just the one that popped into my head. Like I mean, she's spectacular. Again,
Yeah.
she's I think 56 and was like super
Is
high
she really that
energy.
old?
Yeah.
Fuck, I
She's
didn't know.
married to Blake Griffin. Yeah.
What?
Wait,
Yeah.
no, Blake Shelton, bro.
Not Blake Shelton.
Blake
Oh.
Shelton, yeah.
Not Blake Griffin. Not Blake Griffin. My bad. Blake Shelton. Yeah. Don't Speak. There's another. That's a good one. Yeah.
I think that's their best one, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, there's. I
Just
mean,
a
she has
girl,
a.
just a girl was their first hit, but
Yeah.
Brendan
So
just has that glazed over look that
Yep.
didn't. I
if
could
you
tell
put
how
it
well he
on, you
was
would
returning.
know every single one of the songs. You would. You'd be like, oh, I know this song. Oh, yeah, I know this song. Like they had a ton of hits. So, all right, welcome in to the Kings Beat podcast. Thanks for joining us here. If you don't mind and you're listening live, hit the thumbs up for us. Subscribe to the channel. Do all of that stuff. Let's see if I can get the thumbs up to work. Boom. Yes. Yeah, just kind of weird, right? Let's see what else we got going on. The Sacramento Kings are no good. That's something that's happening. We're as we speak, a whopping 5 days away from December 15th, where players can be traded. Things have come undone. Dogs, cats living together, complete chaos. Where are you guys at with this team? Let's just start with a basic. This is it's been a frustrating up and down week of Kings coverage. And after watching them just fall apart in the last 4 minutes to the Indiana Pacers, we're here at the same point we have been most of the season, which is, 6-18 and 12 games under 500 and not feeling good about what's happening.
Not much has changed really, aside from them becoming a little bit less watchable. I think there are some people who are still be able to find joy in seeing their team perform and seeing some certain guys get some opportunity. Obviously, as Michael Buffington is saying in the chat about starting Max Reynaud, he's had some moments offensively. Defensively, leaves a hell of a lot to be desired, which means he sounds like a Sacramento King. Things have fit in right away. I think, much to my surprise, I think it's a better fit than Drew Eubanks while Domantas Sabonis is on the shelf, but pleasantly surprised by some of the offensive moments that he's had. I still think they'd probably be better with more Precious Achiuwa, but this is kind of the object right now, is to get some opportunity for some people. And, it's kind of funny. I mean, if you're looking at the standings, which nobody really should, it's December, but you're only 3 games out of the 10, which is showing you how really the divide between some of the really good teams and just the really bottom part of the league. So not much has changed in my opinion, really. Still don't have Dennis Schroeder back. Domas is nearing maybe a return, hopefully here in the next week or so. Zach LaVine will miss tomorrow and Thursday with this thumb injury that I wasn't really too familiar with. So yeah, just another dismal kind of twiddle your thumbs type of week in Kingsland.
Yeah, I think Zach has 2 thumbs. Luckily, it's only one of them that's hurt for some reason. But go ahead, Brenden.
Yeah, I think the big highlight, I guess you would say, was Zach's 42 ball, obviously, and 29 of those in the first half. Not to have a negative take on that, because there is a lot of credit goes to Zach for being the caliber of player where he's going to have a couple of these a year. Where there was Charlotte last year where he just totally had, I think it might have been exactly 42 points as well, and tied the high that he's had since being in a Kings jersey. But it's just not exactly within the flow of the offense. And it felt like, some possessions where we're trying to do it a little bit more in our rhythm. And, Zach, as he should at this point, since he's on a total heater, it's kind of, hey, give me the ball and I got this, essentially. And I think that the rhythm of it all is a little bit weird to me, not just specifically with Zach. I don't think he's the only one that falls into this, but more of a larger point to it feels like there's no clear pecking order. I guess I've mentioned this previously as well, but that you don't know consistently who's going to get a decent chunk of the shots on any given night. Like Keegan Murray's shot attempts have gone down a good amount in the last 5 games, and it's a small sample size, so take it for what you will. But as some of these other guys start to take more looks, it's like, okay, obviously that's coming from somewhere else. And I feel like what we've seen so far is there's going to continue to be this up and down of it was Zach LaVine's time at the beginning of the year, and then they phased away from that for a little bit and went towards other people. And now they're, at least for that brief moment, going back towards Zach's direction a little bit. And I think it just kind of speaks to, again, what we've mentioned a bunch, but the lack of cohesion for multiple of these guys to get going on the same night.
Yeah, I think that's been the weirdest thing this whole entire season. It's like, as soon as somebody, you turn a faucet on, like 3 other faucets shut off. And, I think Zach's last 3 games are a poster child for like this Sacramento Kings season, but also, maybe a little bit of Zach LaVine as a player, where you go 1 of 5 one night for 2 points, then you go for 42, and then you back that up with 16. And it's almost like he's here for the symmetry of it all. 2 plus 42 plus 16 is 60, divided by 3 is 20. He's averaging 20 a game. Hey, look at that. I mean, to me, it's just one of the strangest things I've ever seen, to watch a player with this much talent like disappear and reappear, and then give you something but not the same. And I think he's been really good as a defensive player, better than he has been in his past stops. But the inconsistency, and I think it's the same thing with most of this team. I mean, I think it was 3 games ago, Malik Monk had 19 shot attempts to lead the Kings, and then he disappears for 2 games completely, including last game where he didn't play in the second half. And so I don't think we know what to make of this team, just like anyone else does. But it's certainly coming to a point where, things are going to be changing quickly. At least that's what it feels like.
Does it?
Excuse me.
Whoa, big sneeze.
Big sneeze. Oh,
By the way, James's sneeze absolutely scare the shit out of me a lot. When I'm around him, they come out of nowhere. They're super loud, and he's always apologetic for it. And he's like blaming. He's like, I had to sneeze. I'm like, I know, but they're so loud. They're
Silent yet aggressive sneezer. Yeah,
very much. So.
Yeah, they come out of nowhere, and then there's usually 2 of them. Yeah. So anyway, there wasn't even time for me to hit the mute at that point. Sorry, everyone. You had
life
to hear me
life happens.
Bless you. By the way,
did you happen to? I don't know what I was going to say, but it was reminded me of seeing Zach's quote about getting the ball and being able to score. To your point about just obviously seeing some crazy minute distribution, having Russell Westbrook, who was on a heater with his triple-double, but then, playing 40 minutes is pretty wild. I don't think any of those older players should be doing that. I've said it a lot. I don't think it's good for them. I don't think it's good for this team. Even if, you were 10 games over 500, I don't think you should do that. But seeing Malik kind of go in and out, it brings a lot of question marks. But then obviously, Zach LaVine has had some interesting comments throughout the course of this disappointing season, and I thought the one about getting the ball more and being capable of doing a 42-point night almost every night, which we all know that he is, but is that for the betterment of the team? Like, who knows? I came out right out of the gate and said I thought that Zach would score 30 points a game this season because he would have ample opportunity. I'm a little surprised that he hasn't been more aggressive. I think a lot of it's just on him to maybe take some of those. It's the same thing when I always blame people who want to see Keegan Murray shoot more. I said it's on him to do so. I don't know what you guys make of that situation.
I thought it was interesting because, okay, so sort of the way this whole thing rolled out was someone from Hoops Hype, which for the life of me, I don't have their name in front of me. I don't remember who it was. But they asked him a question after the Miami Heat game when he scored 42, and he said, yeah, I can score 42. Like, I can do this quite often. I just, I got to get the ball or something like that. He tried to clarify afterwards with Chris Biederman, who was on the road with the team. And I thought Biederman did a good job of like asking a pretty weird question. I mean, it's a question you have to ask, but just the framing of it. And I think from what I gathered from Zach's comments is A, Zach didn't know that was a reporter. B, Zach thought that the guy paraphrased what he said. and C, Zach was talking trash because he probably thought that was a Bulls, a Heat person, like a Miami Heat fan or someone related to the team. And so he was kind of popping off, according to Zach, from what he told Chris Biederman. And so I thought it was like, I don't know. Like, I agree sometimes that this team doesn't pass the ball. And I agree that, the offense in general is not good at all. I don't know what to make of the offense. I can tell you that I've watched every single game and every single minute of every single game, some of it multiple times, and I still don't know what to call what this offense is or what the ball movement is. Some nights it's there, some nights it's not. And it's not about make or miss shots. I will say this though, it's on a player of Zach's like caliber to shoot the ball more than 5 times. It just is. And
Yep.
I don't care, like again, we can talk about Keegan Murray and whether he falls into the same exact boat or not, but we have to be honest with ourselves and say that Keegan Murray doesn't bring the ball up. He's not a guard, and he's not, on occasion he'll have the ball on the break, but guards have the ball in their hands. They get to make decisions. And Zach is part of an offensive scheme, whatever it is, that's moving around the top, and taking 5 shots is just, that's on him. And, whether the defense was good or anything else, that doesn't really matter. You're too good of a player to ever take 5 shots in a game.
Yep.
Like, 5 shots in a game is for someone like me who somehow finds his way onto a 10-day contract and lands on the floor and says, "Oh, I'm going to chuck 5 shots."
Bad analogy, but I see your point.
You know what 5 shots a game is for? It's for Drew Eubanks. That's what 5 shots per game is for.
5 hook shots.
5 hook shots, fall away, spin move,
5
fancy
headaches.
footwork, followays.
5
Yeah,
eye rubs.
that's just, to me, I don't know, Sean, that's your question. Like, it's just not, you can't tell me that you went into that game and you were aggressive and you were engaged. And, and I know he doesn't like you say you quit. I don't think he quit. I just don't think that he was 100% there for the game. And that happens sometimes, but for this season, it's happened too often already.
I think a lot of my take on that is that, and the realization of this, for what it's worth, not having been super locked in on Zach LaVine's game and the nuances of it when he was in other places, I think, to me, there's such a glaring lack of what do you bring offensively off ball. Like, you would think that for the athleticism this guy has and the 3-point shooting he has and the gravity that brings, that he'd be a lot better cutter than he is. Now, the Kings also don't run a style that I think is favoring that the most. You would think that playing off Domas would have some logic there. And I think we've seen moments, and obviously injuries getting in the way, a lot of that stuff, but there's no off-ball movement shooting the way that Kevin Huerter or Buddy Hield had, in that sort of gravity. Like, in that game that he had, I don't actually know the number in front of me, but in that Miami game, the 42-point performance, it wouldn't surprise me if, 80% of those makes were unassisted. Like, I think for the most part, he is kind of doing it on his own. And there's just a lack of, okay, well, what are you providing well here off ball, which I think goes to Zach himself and to the scheme a little bit. Like, there's no identity. There's nothing that they seem to, at least that you can see throughout the course of these games, that they can rely on a possession to possession basis. Doug mentions wanting to play with pace, wanting to rebound. Like, it's not things that they're currently doing well. The pace is okay for this team. But the ball movement, the rebound, share, and defend, like, those are the three things they highlight, and they suck at all of them. Like, it's hard to, I think, for players, and obviously they are part of what is going on here, but to get a rhythm when I just don't know what they are expecting to do on every single possession consistently. The whole identity they wanted to create coming into this year, it almost feels like the exact opposite of that goal has taken place so far.
Yeah, look, I don't know, like, we're deep enough into the season where, like, clearly whatever they're doing isn't working, and they need, it would help if they got players back. It would help if Domantas Sabonis stepped back on the floor. We don't have an update yet on Domas, at least not that I've heard anything. I haven't exactly been knocking on the door and saying, "Hey, where's Domas?" But he had his MRI on November 16th, and they said 3 to 4 weeks. We're like 3.5 weeks in, and we haven't heard anything. And so that's something that I would point to. Like Domas shouldn't be that far away. Clearly, they decided on a non-surgical approach here with the partial tear of the meniscus. They have a choice here. A lot of times with meniscus tears, they go in and they cut out some of the tear and some of the scar tissue, and they go from there. But this seems like something that they did not want to do here.
No, he has not had surgery. He has had none
Yeah.
of that. So
No, he hadn't had surgery, which is something that we would have got another press release about, telling us that he had successful knee surgery, whether it was successful or not. I mean, successful in the way that they were able to zip his knee back together, but like we have no idea here what's going on there. And then the other one I want to bring up is the Dennis Schroeder thing is odd to me too. Like we're 6 games in and now 7 because he is now listed as doubtful for tomorrow's game. But I don't think I've ever remembered a player being questionable for 6 straight games and missing all 6 of them. And we're well over 2 weeks now into what was a hip soreness issue. Now it's a hip flexor issue, and we're still like he's listed as day to day, but it's more like he's week to week. And not to look at the calendar or anything, but we're 5 days away from the moment that Dennis Schroeder can be traded. And I'm just wondering if there isn't something more nefarious here with Schroeder and what's going on with him.
I don't think nefarious, but yeah, I mean potentially, but I don't necessarily think that he's doing himself any favors by not contributing and not playing. I don't know. We've been able to see him practice and get shots up and certainly not run or compete at an NBA action level. But even before the road trip, everything was day to day. Still is. I think it's for him just a matter of whether or not he can come out and bear through some of the pain that he's dealing with in that, and it is a hip flexor strain. So, yeah, don't know what to tell you. It is a little odd, but there hasn't, they're not putting he's going to be out 2 weeks kind of a thing, because it's literally how is he feeling, and for whatever reason he just hasn't been able to go.
Oh, Brendan's muted.
Brendan has the mute button.
Rookie mistake right there.
Yeah, man. I remember my first Zoom.
Yeah, I remember when my microphone didn't work.
Well,
damn it.
Got me.
20 minutes ago.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a weird situation. But I guess in the absence, what sort of stands out to me is I don't know how often I've watched these games and thought, man, the Kings are really missing Dennis Schroeder right now. Like, Malik Monk has there are instances, it's not like he wouldn't help or anything like that, but you see Keon get a little bit more run. I think that while it's been inconsistent, you have that big game from Malik mixed in there. And I think Malik is somebody that is drastically underused on this current roster. And so it just, it's, as you mentioned, the 15th day coming up of where he'd be eligible to be traded, or really just any time until February with how everything's going. I think it's definitely just something you monitor a little bit, and Russ already took the starting spot. So how much responsibility was on Dennis at this point?
Yeah, I get that, but I'd also tell you, like, Dennis Schroeder was really good off the bench, and like when in the games that he came off the bench, I thought he started to really lead that second unit. And since then, since he's been gone, the team's in like I don't want to say a funk, because it's the same exact thing that they've been doing the whole time. But like in his 6 games as a starter, I mean, it is his 6 games coming off the bench, he's averaging 14.5 and 6 assists a game. And, all of his numbers, his true shooting is up 7% over what it was as a starter. His 3-point percentage, he's shooting 38.7. Like, just overall, he looks like a different player. He's playing a lot better. His offensive rating is up. His usage is up. So, I mean, I think Dennis Schroeder can help this team. And to be honest with you, Russell Westbrook is 37 years old and shouldn't be playing 40 minutes a night. So, I mean, I think Dennis can help you, but I also, when we play into that, the fact that the Kings just sent Devin Carter, who was supposed to come into this season as something like the third point guard, like Devin Carter just got jettisoned to the G League, and he played last night. He played tonight in the G League. Last night he scored 25 points, had 8 rebounds, something like that. Tonight, I don't know what the final tally is, but he was having somewhat of a similar outcome. Let me see where we at. I don't know if this game is over, but last time I checked, he's at 16 points. But it kind of feels like maybe they're ramping up Devin Carter just a little bit to get him ready to play some minutes. But
no, I mean, I was down there last night and talked to him. And even a lot of people throughout the organization, it's literally guy hasn't played in a month. He has had no action in almost a month. And it's, as he put it, he's like, I can always go up against teammates and get action from coaches. But you feel rather dominant in those situations. And so it's not really a true indication of where you were at. So yeah, having the ability to come down, he welcomed the opportunity because he wasn't playing, and he knew that unlike Neek, who had his G League debut last night also alongside him, that he would get 2 back-to-back nights in Stockton against South Bay and play. And I thought I think he played pretty well. He was pretty critical of maybe taking as many shots as he did. I asked him, I was like, obviously when you're down there, you have a different scoring expectation than you do at the big club, but you're down there primarily trying to play extended minutes and have an absolute green light. So I think he said a lot of the right things. I seeing him play was okay. I mean, I don't look at somebody scoring as having a good game, but typically he had some moments at the point guard position with his distribution that I thought looked pretty nice, similar to maybe I said not too similar from what you saw at Summer League, because obviously him playing point guard was definitely a learning curve as somebody who hasn't done that very often. But you saw both him and Neek get run at the point guard at various points in that game, and Devin looked very, very comfortable. I think Neek struggled, turned the ball over a lot, and missed a lot of shots. But definitely good to get both those guys some action for sure.
Yeah, I think like both of these guys they're on completely different planes here as players. Like again, Neat Clifford, I think what they're trying to do is trying to build up his confidence a little bit as an offensive player. Like defensively, he's been perfectly fine. He fouls too much, but he's been really good defensively. The metrics say he's been really good. But offensively, he's just got a hesitation to his game. And when he gets rid of that, I think he'll actually be really good. Like when he does, like pump fake and take a guy off the dribble and break down the defense and get to the key and dish out, he's been excellent. It's just he doesn't do it enough. And I think they're trying to get him just a little bit more push. But when it comes to Carter, I think they're like either leave him there until you figure out something for him, or let him build up some confidence, some strength, work on his game, and maybe you can call him back up later in the season when you might need him, or if you need him because of a trade coming up. And that was the only thing. I think it's very interesting that Dennis Schroeder's still out. December 15th is almost here, and Devin Carter goes to the G League to get his legs stretched out. Seemed a little coincidental, and maybe it is. It also could be something more, but we'll wait and see. Brenden, I know you watch a lot of G League action. Is there something that stands out from this?
I think what Sean mentioned a little bit, seeing some of the playmaking growth a little bit from Devin Carter, and I think it's good to Neek. You already knew that stuff was there, but letting him continue to grow on that, that was one of my early things that kind of, I guess, hooked me with some G League stuff a little bit and more Summer League, is like watching Bam Adebayo play point guard at the first California Classic, when it's not necessarily for the sake of he's going to be their point guard, but it's still good to develop those ball handling skills and how that can impact the attacking a closeout and then making plays from there. The things that I think Neek is already good at, and build that confidence. You mentioned it, the aggressiveness that Neek shows, I think, is something that could definitely improve. And I think it's probably understandable when you're surrounded by a bunch of Hall of Famers that are also probably a little bit hungry for shots, because they're not necessarily all getting that many touches every single night with the consistencies we mentioned before. But he looks best when he's aggressive, and I'm sure having a solid night like he did last night helps contribute to that. For what it's worth, I'm not might tune into Stockton games, but I'm not sitting there watching G League games every single night. I'm not that much of a sicko.
Yes, you are.
Depends who's playing.
You're watching all those Stockton games. I know you are.
Can I give it? By the way, being down there, and you know how in the G League, you shoot one free throw for two, basically. And Dylan Cardwell, who's had some really nice moments down the G League, obviously trying to come a long way from what he is and build some skill. Seeing him hit free throws is rather impressive. Kind of talking to him a little bit afterwards and talking about how much more pressure there is to shoot free throws because you only get one, and so there's a little bit more pressure, or they mean a little bit more to shoot one and get two, and he's kind of pleased with some of the results. So are some of the people around him. So looking like there's some hope there for him.
Do you think that I was curious about this when they first implemented it? He's a great example. Do you think that benefits a bad free throw shooter like that?
It's funny
because you're probably getting both points more often than you normally would.
They all say the right thing, like as if the weight of it means a little bit more. But I wonder, as just a casual basketball fan, or if you're watching a game and you're only watching one free throw, are you really taking that element and the importance of free throws away from the game at that point? And I think it's interesting to hear a player and a coach talk about it, but then if you're a player, it's really not a focal point at that point, even though, because you're only shooting one, it feels like it's lessened. But hearing the player defend it and say it feels like these are become more important to shoot the one to get the 2 points. I don't know. I guess it depends on who you ask, but every time I watch a G League game, man, since they made that rule, it makes me wonder. It's like, man, are free throws going to get worse as a result of a rule change like this?
I hate free throws. I hate watching them. I hate free throw grifters, foul grifters. I just it slows down the game. It makes it unwatchable sometimes. And so if they can shorten it, that's fine with me. Like I don't, when I look at a player's stats, so rarely do I ever look at their free throw percentage, unless they're just completely horrific. But yeah, I get it.
James
he was
not a
horrible.
Kevin Martin fan.
Well, yeah, there you go. Kevin Martin, like Shea's a great player. He doesn't need to foul grift. And there's a lot of players like that. Kevin Martin is one of the godfathers of foul grifting.
Legend.
Yeah.
I call it merchant more than grift. Grift doesn't really make that much. I'd say free throw merchant for sure.
Merchant makes it sound like they're doing something cool.
They produce points. I mean, that's the way they, know.
Yeah. To me, they're just slowing the game down.
And they got to sell. It's all deception, right? So it's very deceptive motions and.
Yeah, and someone here, Red and Gold in the chat says DeRozan is a free throw grifter. I put DeRozan in a different boat. Yeah, there's a little bit of grifting to it, but DeMar DeRozan's a jump shooter who gets people off balance. He doesn't jump into people. He doesn't do the flailing head and fall down he has been falling down a lot more, but he's not doing the non-basketball moves. What he does do is he makes everyone in the gym everyone thinks that they're going to block his shot, and then he gets them every single time they hit him. And you look at players and they're just so frustrated with themselves because they know they hit him every single time, and they know he's not going to miss that many jump shots. And so you got to be close on him. So I think it's a little bit different than the guys, the Trae Young used to do the stop short move where he would just run up the court, step in front of somebody and put on the brakes and then get run over and take the foul. like again and again, you're like, oh, this is miserable to watch. Again, Luka, I don't like watching Luka do it. James Harden does it all the time. It just, to me, it's like, anyway, yeah, it's not my favorite aspect of the game. That's for sure.
I don't think you're the only one.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
The point of DeRozan is everybody thinks that they can get that shot, like, and even just lazy defense, because it's not like he's the quickest, fleet of feet, never has been, but the motion is so right in front of your face that you feel like you can get the ball and you end up fouling him.
Yeah,
and
he doesn't
everyone
even do
falls
the
for
hook.
it.
He doesn't
No,
even do the
no.
the up and under hook. Yeah, so
Everybody falls for it.
Yeah. I think that there is a difference between getting fouled and like acting like you got fouled every single time someone like touches you, which is just ridiculous. Let's see, what else do we got? What do you guys make of Malik Monk not playing in the second half?
I wish I could ask Doug Christie that question. I wasn't able to get to practice today, but yeah, that's a question for I think only Doug can answer. And maybe that was a one game situation. I think you laid it out pretty good, James, and what this road trip looked like and some of the distribution of minutes. But I think Doug really is having a hard time figuring out his team. I think that's just the ultimate theme of all this. Like, and probably bangs his head against the wall, much like Cam Scattaboo, in trying to figure out his team. But there are wild inconsistencies throughout this team, and I think he's just as big a part of it as some of these guys are.
Definitely looks like that's the case, with how much variance there is on night to night. And I would assume that Russ rolling in the way that he was contributed to Malik not getting back out there. Not that they couldn't share the floor, but the role that they play when they're out on the floor is pretty similar offensively, at least. I not saying that I wouldn't have, like, I don't think that was probably the best way to go. Like Malik, again, that is when I feel like they get their offensive identity back the most, him and Domas. And those guys play to what at least we knew previously to be Sacramento Kings offense. And so I think that they really could lean into that more often in setting up some of these other guys. But it is pretty unexplainable. And I think that there are a couple of these instances. There's Keon's DNP CD earlier in the year. There's, I think Dylan Cardwell starting in game 1 of the year was definitely something. So I agree with sort of Sean's evaluation and read on it. It seems like Doug is trying to figure this out, and that's probably the nature of this logjam that he keeps talking about, and not everybody can get minutes. But yeah, I think you could transition more into some of the guys that have given been given less opportunity this year, and lessen down on maybe Russ, DeMar playing these heavy minute workloads.
And those rotations, James, sorry to cut you off, like Malik not playing in that second half when you already don't have Dennis Schroeder is, you talk about the importance of a point guard on this team and him kind of stepping in and filling in that situation where, in my opinion, I think he's filled in pretty well when he's given the opportunity. Yeah, that one doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I'm going to guess. I mean, like, look, we all know Malik pretty well. Malik is somebody who I think we all have friends that are like this, that like they run hot all the time. And, how many times have we walked in the locker room and, hey, what's up, Malik? And Malik tells Sean or I to F off. And it's not in a negative way. He's a jokester. But again, he runs hot. And so I think there's also a possibility that maybe Malik wasn't happy with the first half, and maybe he let that known in the locker room during halftime. And like, we'll have to wait and ask around the team over the next couple of days to see what exactly happened there. But I would not be surprised at all if there was a reason why he didn't play in the second half. And like, we'll have to figure it out. But again, the team's on the road. It's tough for us when we're here and we're not around the team. And also, that was the last time that we've seen them. And I'm not sure that that Chris Biederman, who I believe was there in Indiana, was able to get to that question. So we're gonna have to see what exactly is going on there. But Like, look, I think everybody's on edge. Your team is bad. You're 6-18, and nobody's happy with what's going on. And hey, let's add in the fact that trade season is just around the corner already, and you can read just about anywhere on the internet that Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Keon Ellis are all they're all on the trade block. They're all ready to be traded at any moment. I don't know that that's the case because I don't know that there's going to be takers for a lot of those guys. But if you rewind a month and a half, 2 months ago, Malik Monk's name was in all of those same exact reports. And there's a good chance that he already feels that way again. And he's someone who likes Sacramento. He's someone who likes to golf here. He's someone who just had a baby and is settled down a little bit here. And I wouldn't be surprised if like a lot of this stuff is weighing on him as well as a handful of players on that roster. Just tough times. That's why
I don't know about.
Go ahead.
I think for some guys, I mean, as far as
they're
I know,
ready.
Their bags packed, ready to go. So
yeah, they're not volunteers anymore. They're also just they're waiting for Russell Crowe to come through and save them, like the negotiator, and get them out of their hostage situation. Yeah,
there's
not a good situation.
I mean, you have the Malik thing too, but it was also, not having been around the team and being able to ask him over this past week, in the last game against Indiana, Russ looked quite frustrated in that game too down the stretch, especially in the closing moments, chirping to some of the official or to some of the coaching staff, and he was clearly annoyed by something. So, losing takes a toll for sure.
It does. It does. Okay, let's get to again, we haven't got to see this team complete the entire season. I mean, what are we, 24 games into the season? And Keegan Murray and Domantas Sabonis haven't played together yet at all. Do you guys want to at all see what this team looks like when it's whole? Or are we well beyond that?
I'm all right, personally. I think that we know what this looks like. Even from my own viewing experience, I think I'm good. But if we're talking also about, obviously, state of the Kings moving forward, I don't think that means you need to ship off absolutely everybody. If you wanted to have the logic of, hey, we still want to see how this could fit around Sabonis, for example, I think that he is a complicated player to build around. I probably would choose to reset, not necessarily be in a rush to, but look to go in a different direction, because I don't think they're going to be a truly playoff caliber team in the next 3 years, for example. So in my mind, it's probably best to reset. And we know that this group of guys does not mesh together. I think it's going to take a serious overhaul to find the correct pieces that will work in that direction. And I think there is, not necessarily because they're bad players, but I think there are some of these guys that it might even just be an addition by subtraction with this guard log jam that they have going on, and freeing up opportunity for other guys, and maybe just easing some of these complications that we've talked about for this group. But so while I don't think that necessarily means nobody should stick around, I think it's definitely needs an overhaul. And I just think it needs to go in that direction at this point.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think seeing them at in their entirety at this point would change anyone's mind. I would maybe disagree slightly and say maybe I think it would help for the level of competition just to see, your better players, but ultimately this is a doomed roster, and they've dug themselves such a hole that there's not really much that they can do to get out of it. That being said, mathematics shows you that they're not far from the 10, which, is quite laughable, but it is the reality. But also to that point, like if you can get them healthy, maybe make a move here or there. I'm not going to say that makes you immediately a contender or anything like that, but it might help shape a more competitive roster that could potentially get on some sort of streak. But I think it's incumbent upon Scott Perry to do the saving. I said last week, saving this team from themselves. That's ultimately, I think, what everyone turns their focus to at this point. Ultimately, though, in my opinion, I just don't know that there's a market for a lot of these guys on this team that can, help you in this situation for the season. And at this point, you're just basically playing for ping pong balls, development, and legacy, I think, for some of these older players.
Yeah. I just think it's a mess, right? And like, I don't know that having Domas and Keegan on the court are going to help you all that much. I mean, clearly you'd be a better rebounding team. You'd probably be a better defensive team because you're rebounding better. You might be a better offensive team, but not with the current way that they're running an offense. That doesn't feel like they're running an offense. It feels like just dudes doing whatever they want. And then every once in a while you see a guy come out and like set a screen and do something different, slip the screen in a different way. And you're like, oh, well, that was new. So clearly they are working on offensive things, but that's not exactly where this team is going to make their name is, like if they can't play any defense at all, this is going to be a really short season.
And when Domas was out there, just real quick, I don't think that it looked good offensively. It seemed like he was struggling just as much as some of these other guys with the reality of there being one ball, and they weren't playing through him in the same offensive style that they had in years prior. And I think that's just how you have to optimize Domas.
Yeah, it's almost like Domas needs. I know this, like if you guys have watched Ted Lasso, the Jamie Tart moment where he says, you don't need to play to me, you need to play through me. And that's what it feels like. Like this team just is making a catastrophic mistake in their basic design, like on offense. Like you can play through one person and it can make everyone else better. The problem with this group is it doesn't feel like anyone is trying to make anyone else better. And if you do have somebody who can do that, why are you not playing through them? And it's just kind of like a really weird situation for me. Like, especially watching a team succeed doing it for the last 3 years before this, even a 40-win team, it wasn't perfect. And they were running the ball through Domas less than they were in the previous 2 seasons. But like you won 48 games, you won 46 games with Domas averaging 6 assists and 8 assists a game. And it just feels like you've gotten so far away from that. And again, you don't have the players to run the same offense, so that's a problem. But still, it just feels like there is no flow at all to this thing. I wouldn't mind seeing at least what they look like, but with the understanding that this group isn't it at all. So, I brought up something on the radio today, which I like someone brought up in the chat. Yeah, and
what did you say, James?
I did. I said something. I didn't say something horrific, but what I did say is like Sean, you just started down this path a little bit at the beginning of your last answer, where it's like, hey, if they started to play better and they started to get the ball rolling a little bit, like who knows, maybe they could build some momentum. And like the baby daddy was disappointed in me. He's totally disappointed with me. Because I said, hey, look, if I were looking at this team and saying, like, how do I move forward? Number one, how do I build something sustainable? How do I not get fired? How do I not get the coach fired? How do I not just like have to start all over, but start over 2 years from now, which is like one of the most awkward things of all time. Like what we're talking about is like a full-blown rebuild that just can't actually start happening until you get rid of some of these gigantic contracts. And that's going to be really difficult to do. I also look at this team from 2 years ago and 3 years ago and say, how difficult would it be to go out and try to put some of those pieces back together? Not specifically De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes, but pieces that make sense around the players that you have, that you did have success with. And that's where I pitched this idea, and I'll run it by you guys, and we'll call it the business of basketball.
No, I'm tired.
Nothing?
I don't think so.
No, very
nothing.
sour.
Nothing came to my mind right away. So
we all looked at you. The whole room, all the chat, everyone looked at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, okay, so here's the thing. Like, I see this no more shortcuts. Like, I don't believe there are shortcuts in the NBA, but I also know for a fact that there are no sure bets when it comes to the draft. And so with me, if I were looking at this and saying, okay, what are all of my options? And option one is to, tank completely and try to play for a top 5 pick in this year's draft. The Kings are already there. I mean, they're already like the number 4 seed in the draft lottery right now, that's fine. But just because you're number 4 doesn't mean you don't drop to number 7 and miss out on one of the star level players on the top. Just because you land number 3 doesn't mean that you're going to find a good player at number 3, because there are plenty of 18-year-old and 19-year-old kids, which all of this first 10 picks are. They're all freshmen, but there's nothing that says they're not going to bust completely and just be bad. I mean, I talked about it earlier. Like, De'Aaron Fox is the 5th pick in the 2017 NBA draft. It was supposed to be one of the best drafts in the history of the NBA. The first pick is Markelle Fultz, out of the league. The second pick is Lonzo Ball, holding on by a thread in the league. Jason Tatum's the 3rd pick, who's wonderful. The number 4 pick is Josh Jackson, who hasn't played in the league in 3 years. Like, De'Aaron Fox, number 5 pick. Like, the number, wasn't Dennis Smith? Like, the number 8 pick. Frank and Ntilikina is like the number 7 pick, or 8 and 9, whatever those guys were. Jonathan Isaac, you can throw into that group. Like, there is no sure bet. There's not in the draft. And so if I'm looking at this and going, hey, can I reassemble a team that looks different, but maybe 10 years younger or 8 years younger? Can you do it? And you see teams that are around. And I think this is where, like, my thought process started. It's like the harsh reality that there are going to be really good players available right now. And there already are. There are really good players available on the open market. And the Kings are now a seller. They're not a buyer. And so they're not going to go try to get one of those players. They're going to try to dump players the best they can to get better. And my thought would be, is there a possibility to not be a seller and to be a buyer, and to go to a team like New Orleans and say, hey, look, I know you're shopping Trey Murphy and you're shopping Herb Jones right now. Would you consider Zach LaVine for those 2 players and a couple of first-round draft picks in the future? Would you consider DeMar DeRozan and 3 other contracts and try to build out a roster with defensive players, with 3-point shooters, with guys who can score, and try something different, as opposed to trying to scrap everything and starting back at the beginning? And so that's where I'm not saying it's like a path that's a great idea, but I would at least examine it and say, can you give up the Spurs pick? Can you give up the Timberwolves pick or a future first of your own and turn it around for 2 younger players that are under contract for 4 years each, and maybe rebuild your team the way you should have built it the first time?
And I would someone consider that a shortcut? I think I'm still stuck up on that word too, because I mean, what would be an example of the Kings taking a shortcut that in the past few years? I don't know how that would have been defined.
Yeah, I don't know what a shortcut is either. I was just going off somebody saying that that's a shortcut.
I mean,
I don't know.
Would like the Trevor Ariza, Dwayne Dedman, Corey Joseph committing money to those guys, thinking you were going to be good already, is that a shortcut that sets you back? That's probably
No,
not
those are just
dramatic
awful.
enough.
Those are just awful signings.
Right. I guess the argument would be, is the shortcut thinking they were already there, so they were willing to commit more money to these guys? Like, they just misevaluated their timeline, I think, is more of what people are meaning by shortcut.
Yeah.
Right, because not taking the shortcut in the draft is understanding, with that logic that you mentioned, James, that the draft is not a hit, that, for every Chet Holmgren, you're going to have an Alexei Pokusevsky. Like, Sekou Demboya and Killian Hayes were on the Pistons before they got their Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren, and it's kind of being willing to, hey, we're going to miss a little bit, essentially. And that's kind of part of this process, and being willing to sit out through that. And the one thing I would add is that the new tank or the new lottery odds, you don't necessarily need to be a bottom 5 team, bottom 10-ish we're probably talking about, which you can still be progressing as, you see Portland start to take steps a little bit, but they're still going to be very much in this conversation of competitive for a solid draft pick.
Well, and I here's the other thing. I don't think that I think you can do both, and I think that is ultimately what's going to be the strategy. I mean, short of them being able to land some sort of Ja Morant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, something like that, to where you may flirt with giving up your first round pick in this year's draft or even beyond. I don't envision them doing anything of that caliber. But I do think that you can do both. You can still make trades to help you in the now that aren't 3-4 years down the road, with the possibility of adding picks. But I just don't think that, again, your current crop of players, I don't think, outside of maybe Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray, and some of the younger, maybe a younger piece, whatever. I just don't see some of these older players turning into first round picks for the Kings. So therefore, I feel like you can still have your attention on the draft, but also identify these teams throughout the league, which there are several that come to mind. Cleveland, for example, who has so much money in the luxury tax. I know Minnesota, you mentioned, James, they're way up there too. I think the Knicks are also in the top 5. Just all these bloated teams that they're just going to have to shed salary. And if whatever reason, if you're able to bring back either expiring money, which a lot of these bloated teams aren't going to want to get rid of expiring money, but if you're able to bring back something to where it's going to cost them to be able to have to shed some of these big salaries, and you can be the beneficiary of that somehow, some way, I think that's what keeps you a flexible, competitive option going forward. And you don't have to sacrifice your draft pick to do so.
Yeah, the trading Rashawn Holmes to get off his deal and including the pick that becomes Max Prosper, and the Kings being on the other side of the deal this time around. Yeah, I think it's a great point, Sean, the idea of you can do both here, that you can retool a little bit and potentially be willing to include something in a deal, at a throw in. I think it wouldn't surprise me if Keon is part of adding to a DeMar or Zach to make the deal a little bit more enticing. And if you want to add more to that, maybe you can get something in return and you get a little bit younger. But I don't think any of us think that one player, one trade is about to turn this whole thing around, unless it's, we're talking Trae Young, John Moran or something, and something drastic to that extent. So yeah, I'm with you. I think they could do both. I think, obviously, if you couldn't tell, I'm definitely more on the side of, hey, take your time here, and that it's going to be a process. And I do think that, by the way, to answer your shortcut question, I think that the better answer would probably be trading Tyrese for Domas. I think that would be a shortcut, and rather than taking your time with the young player. And there's nuance to it in a lot of ways. Tyrese De'Aaron fit, and Domas had the great year. Take it for what you will, but I think that's the idea, right? Is let you see what you have with your young guys. The hardest thing to get in the NBA that the Kings have not had in, I couldn't tell you how long, is a number one player, number one guy. And I just think the only way that you're going to get that through the draft, and that doesn't have to necessarily be somebody picked in the top 3. You see these guys get picked later in the draft all the time, but you have to put yourself in a situation where you're getting multiple tries at being able to find that guy. And I just think that's the hardest part of the equation. And if you skip that part, then it's going to come back to haunt you.
Yeah, I mean, I get that totally. I just, everyone wants to bring up the Detroit Pistons, and the thing is, they lucked out and got the number 1 pick in the draft when there was a number 1 option. And even that player took 3 to 4 years to develop. And, again, Jalen Duren, I love Jalen Duren. I've loved him since he came in the league, but, he's battled injuries his entire career. And so much so, now he's blowing up and having a great season. And the Pistons hadn't extended him. I mean, he was so suspect over the first 3 years of his career that they didn't even think enough to give him a contract extension this summer. And I don't blame them because of the injuries and everything else, but like now they're at a position where you're going to have to pay that guy. And that's, again, Detroit is one example. But even Detroit, you can say, what is Jaden Ivey right now? We have no idea. And sure, he got hurt, but even before he got hurt, he wasn't like anyone that you were going to give a max extension to or anything. You weren't even going to give him Keegan Murray money that they got. And so, like, look, the draft is a flawed process. And to be honest with you, the Kings, of the the three mechanisms to get better, the draft, trades, and free agency, the Kings don't get to participate in free agency. What's the fourth?
Luck.
Well, I mean, yeah,
because it takes luck. Like, to the point
draft,
about
free agency, but the only way to get players is a
Right.
draft, free agency, and trade. And
Luck.
so, yeah, well, you have to be lucky in
Yes.
every single one of those aspects.
one
You
of
got
them.
to be lucky in the trade aspect. You got to be lucky in the draft. Like, again, the Oklahoma City Thunder, I know Sam Presti's a genius, but his entire organization and the build out of his organization is predicated on a trade that couldn't be redone again, that no one else
Right.
is going to give up 4 or 5 first round picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who just happens to become an MVP. And then you're able to restock everything with all those draft picks. And even this year, as of right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder have the 3rd pick in the NBA draft. They have the Clippers unprotected pick this year. So, but that isn't there for the Kings. So we can wipe that off the board. And so if you're looking at the only way to get better, it's free agency. The Kings are never going to be a player in free agency. So we can scratch that off the board. So now it's like, okay, trades, and you're in a bad spot with trades because most of your contracts are negative value contracts. And then the draft, and the draft is the biggest crapshoot there is. So it's tough, man. Like, rebuilding a team isn't easy, and I get it. Like, go ahead and, welcome in the tank commander. Mark is here. Mark Robertson, the tank commander. He's here. I get it. And hey, I'm not saying make trades today to get better for this season, but I would at least try to make trades and see if you can get the pieces that you've been looking for the last 5 years, and see if you can build a team rather than take a step all the way back to ground zero, when even the player you just signed this summer to a $125 million deal or whatever it was with Keegan, 130, 128, whatever it was, even that deal doesn't make any sense for the roster build. Just doesn't. I'm talking about a 25, 26-year-old dude that by the time that 19-year-old that you plan on drafting next June gets to be ready to be a ball player, Keegan's going to be 29. Like, all right, it's tough world. But anyway, I just think it's like food for thought, because I think there are different ways to build this thing out, and I'm not fully on board with just like, hey, just throw everything away right now and tank. They don't need to do anything, and they're already going to be a bad team. Even if they make some small trades here, I still think that nothing is going to help this season. And I hope that they're not making trades to specifically just push them towards that play-in type deal. That would be a disaster. But I certainly do think that there's another way to rebuild this thing without throwing everything away. Just my point of view. All right. We had a couple of questions I marked earlier.
Is
Let's
that
see.
what that was? That little blue highlight there on some of them? I saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what that is. I highlighted them so I could star them for later. I'm just going to look at this from NBA Guru Zach. Using first-round picks to get guys that aren't going to be number 1 or number 2 guys would be silly, especially if we aren't going to be good. That would be Pelicans type bad trades. Yeah, but how do you get a number 1 or number 2 guy if you're the Sacramento Kings?
I mean, you saw, to go back to what Brendan brought up in terms of the possibility of defining that as a shortcut, the Tyrese Halliburton move to get you Domantas Sabonis. That was, you had a team going nowhere. You had some depth at that position. You were building around Fox at that time. You dramatically changed what the face of your franchise looked like. You gave them a number 2 arguably a number one player at that time in Sabonis. To the point about luck, it didn't work. Even if you want to call the playoff year against the Warriors, even if you want to call that a success, it didn't work. So, I don't look at that as a shortcut, because that was a absolute, well thought out, premeditated move that I think by and large most people thought they understood at least what they were doing in doing so. Certainly, you'd wish it wasn't Halliburton and see what he had become. Reminding people that it was going to be Fox that Indiana ultimately said no to. But yeah, I mean, I don't see that as a shortcut at all, because you're in the same boat now, probably a year from now, maybe even a year beyond that, where you're going to have to make a similar type of move to radically alter the face of your franchise.
Well, that, and I'd point out too, just for that trade specifically, man, Domas was 25 when they made that deal.
Yeah.
He was a young player. I mean, and you put him with a 24-year-old, another couple of 25 and 26-year-olds. Like the design there wasn't, I don't think it was bad. I mean, it cost you something to get something. And of course, Halliburton became much better than anyone expected. But at the same time, like, you did get a guy who went on to be an all-NBA player and made a couple of all-star teams.
Yeah. Yeah. And you gave up a franchise player. I like it's, yeah, I would say objectively a bad deal.
Well, it looks that way now. Yeah, but was he a franchise player when you traded him?
And here's the thing.
No, but like, you didn't know yet. Like the answer, I thought I had a lot of questions about Tyrese's ceiling for sure, but I think already you had seen him outperform some of those with some of the off the dribble stuff he was doing. And who knows if he even would have, developed into the way he did, obviously, if he would have stayed in Sacramento. But I think that's the point, is that like there was something there. And rather than waiting out and seeing what you really have with these young guys, it's a, hey, now we think we want to be good right now. Let's do this,
But also, I remind people they went out and got Pascal Siakam, and that ultimately led to a finals appearance.
Right.
Yeah. What if the Kings would have gotten Pascal Siakam instead?
In the 6 degrees of separation, Pascal Siakam should have probably been a King and wasn't, and all hope was lost.
Fair.
Yeah, and like I get this. Like Shea wasn't a franchise guy either. He wasn't. I mean, like when they traded for him, he was the guy they wanted, but I think what he averaged 11 points a game, 8 points a game as a rookie, something like that before they traded him. Let's hit this since we're running through some questions really fast from Patrick Kilkenny. Who gets traded first, and will we do trades? Who do you guys think gets traded first?
Definitely will trade.
Yeah, they definitely will trade.
If I had to guess,
we do this every week.
I think we might have talked about this last week, and I think that we kind of all agreed upon DeMar, and I'm probably going to stick there. I think that most of these guys will probably be having conversations about, but to me, DeMar is a player that people know who he is. Maybe Russ falls into this as well, but I also think it wouldn't hurt to keep Russ around for Sacramento, for culture and energy he provides. But DeMar, specifically what he is. It would take a specific team to have an ideal fit there, but I think for the sake of him being easier to move in my mind than Zach, I probably would go with DeMar.
Yeah, I would say DeMar or Dennis. I think that there are enough teams out there that are looking at Dennis already, and he could be a guy that easily gets moved. There's Houston that I've heard has some interest. The Knicks have interest in Dennis Schroeder. They had interest before he signed with the Kings this summer. And so I would not be shocked that if Dennis Schroeder is actually pursued heavily in the next, 2 weeks. And look, I don't know when they're going to make trades. The sooner the better, I think, is what everyone's thought is. But we always talk about December 15th like it's this magical date that all kinds of trades happen on December 15th. It very, very rarely happens that way. It's just a date that players that were signed as free agents during the summer can be traded. It's the first date. There's a couple other dates where players that were signed later can be traded and stuff, but this is the first date where actually players can be moved that were signed this offseason. Somebody else asked, let's see, Jose Jr. says, any news on Kuminga? Yeah, he's been benched by the Golden State Warriors and he's out of the rotation. And he is who we thought he is. And
his agent's tweeting, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and like, look, the Warriors have also like screwed this up royally, because Scott Perry, through other people, has basically said, "Hey, look, there's a good chance that the Kings wouldn't even consider giving up a first round pick at all at this point for him," and I don't think they would. Like, especially that's why you don't play this game. You played chicken, and you lost, and maybe they're able to find a taker for Kuminga.
They will be able to find a taker.
Okay.
For Kuminga, absolutely.
But what is that going to get them in return? And the answer is maybe not much.
The reality, too, is that the Warriors are very much one of those teams that are high salary teams that really can't bring back much salary. So it behooves them to lose Kuminga to a degree. I mean, certainly there's other pieces you might want to lose instead, but from just a business standpoint, bringing back salary is not really in their best interest. They're trying to shed. So, he's the one circled with a bullet. He will not be on the team much longer. Where he ends up will be anyone's guess, but you have some teams up there that just are looking to shed salary, and that's going to be a very big theme throughout the rest of these months for this season. And really going into the offseason for the most part, I mean, teams are not trying to pay luxury tax to be average.
Yep.
Yeah.
And hey, look, Kuminga makes $22.5 million. He got paid more than the Kings wanted to pay. And on top of that, he wants to opt out this summer, although it's a team option. And I just don't see that there's a ton of value there. And the Kings still have the same exact players that they had to trade before. That's not great for them. So
yeah, I think for the Warriors situation, it's a little interesting because he's kind of also signed to essentially be a human traded player exception. But the other side of the finances you mentioned as well, Sean. So interesting to see how they navigate with whatever the hell their season has been of just it's that MFR show from Pat Spencer the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
That's awesome.
It's great stuff. Steve Kerr had a phenomenal post-game quote talking about that a little bit. But they're a super weird dynamic in themselves. And it's like, all right, pick a side here, essentially.
Yeah. I think they all did. They picked a side, and it's not Kuminga.
Yeah, not that side. That side is long gone.
Yeah. So I just think it's a mess, and I have no idea what's going to happen there. But I just don't know that. I mean, again, he can't be traded until January 15th anyways. I think that's the date. Yeah, he can't. It's longer for him because of when he signed. Let's see. We can take this one from Zach too. If our best judgment, are the Kings going to lose Keon for nothing, get traded, or stay but get re-signed with the Kings? Basically, what's going to happen with Keon Ellis?
Yeah, look, I think he's not untouchable. If there's a package that they can get better, even by shedding one of these contracts, certainly they'll look at it. But if I was a betting man, I think Keon Ellis remains in Sacramento. I don't think much has changed. I know that people get upset with what Doug Christie does with a lot of his minutes and rotations, and he can blame it on the log jam. He's also the coach of this team. So, but I think there's still a value in Keon Ellis, and I would expect him to be on the Sacramento Kings.
Talking deadline next season?
I'd say through the rest of the season. I don't know. Who knows what happens in the summertime? But
okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think summertime, if I'm Keon, like the Kings need to really offer me a solid contract if I'm going to stick around, which I guess goes without saying. But I think, whether you want to say Sacramento tax or just a tax for how this entire situation has gone down, like the grass has got to seem extremely green on the other side to Keon right now, right? Like it would not surprise me if that were to be the case. he does fit, and Scott was on the radio today talking about this. He fits all of the 6 pillars, and he said we're big fans of Keon, and it's a little confusing because you don't quite see it playing out that way. So I think a weird situation that makes me tend to think that probably will lead in another direction. And with it being a team that you're already expecting to make a lot of moves, I don't think I would be surprised if Keon wasn't a included piece in maybe what was a larger deal.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I think it's a coin flip whether he'll be back or not. And like, look, everything I've been told is that they really do like Keon, and that if he's on the roster after the trade deadline, that they intend to offer him a contract extension on February 9th. Whether that works out or not, I mean, that's a lot of what ifs at this point. Even if they offer him a contract, though, I'm just going to point it out, he doesn't have to take it.
Right.
And so that's the biggest question the Kings are up against. And like, maybe you've depressed his value a little bit, and try, and he doesn't, maybe he doesn't have the value he had before, but I don't think that's the case. There are a ton of teams around the league that really like Keon Ellis, and that will line up to sign him, that will line up to trade for him, and that are very interested in Keon Ellis. Like, but the other problem the Kings have is that their current roster, as we walk into this summer, they still really don't have any money for Keon Ellis. They, even if you walk away from DeMar DeRozan and the $10 million, you pay him the $10 million for next year, and you save the $15 million. You just paid Keegan Murray 24.5 or 25 million starting salary, and so you already gave up that money. That money's gone. There are things like you signed. You picked up the option on Devin Carter's contract for next year. You owe him $6 million next year. Zach LaVine is owed $49 million. So if it were a year out, then yeah, you're probably going to have money. But would the Kings go in the tax to have a bad team and pay Keon Ellis? The answer is there's no way they're going to do that. So
Well,
I'm
and
intrigued.
they just have to offload. Yeah, they just offload salary. I mean, look, the other part of that too is, I mean, for what it's worth, Keon Ellis was sitting courtside in Stockton last night too.
Yeah, he's a team player. Like,
yeah, but I mean, like anybody painting a picture of him being disgruntled and all these things, like Keon Ellis knows what it is.
Well, he knows what it is, but he's not super happy about what happened this summer.
Well, I mean,
he's just got to play it out because that's the rules.
He knows what it is, and whether it's here in Sacramento or elsewhere, that man's going to be taken care of.
Yeah, he's going to get plenty of money. Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, I think we've gone through everything. The one thing I wanted to hit, Brendan, you guys had Scott Perry on the radio this afternoon. Was there anything earth-shattering that Scott talked about?
No, I mean, I think it's a lot of the same things that you hear from him. The goal of the identity this year, the having full autonomy to make whatever decisions that he sees fit when it comes to this roster, and the togetherness and alignment that exists between not only himself and ownership, but himself in the front office. A little bit about the Keon thing that we kind of mentioned a little bit in there. And yeah, I mean, if there's some recent reportings that I guess Scott got asked about and had interesting reactions to, just sort of denying. And yeah, I would say that was essentially, I hesitate a little bit because I think the wording of it being reporting versus people putting pieces together are two different things. It was Amick came out and had said the 3 to 5 years thing of Scott convincing Vivek that this was going to take 3 to 5 years. And I don't think Sam said it in a, hey, this is exactly, what is going on, and more of a piecing everything together way. And yeah, Scott got asked about that and essentially was very quick to say none of that is true. And yeah, so a couple intriguing things like that I feel like it's hard to give full context to if you don't hear exactly how the question was phrased and things like that. But for the most part, I would say very on brand for Scott Perry interview. We got the 6 pillars in there. We got the patient yet prudent, checking all the boxes off here.
Yeah, Yeah, and he also denied, Kieran Carter brings it up, that the front office and coaching staff have a different opinion about Keon Ellis.
Yes,
That was
this is
something
true.
else. Yeah, and I even I listened to what Amick said on the podcast that he was on, and it was like it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5 years, and I know that that gets stringed together that it's 3 to 5 years he's asking for. But those are like you just don't know. Like when you're trying to build out a team and you're drafting young players, again, it's taken Cade Cunningham like 5 years to be the player that he is now and to be a winning player. It has. And so even if you get a top tier pick, it doesn't mean that it's just happening overnight. You have to be patient. And on top of that, you have to have the infrastructure in place to bring that player along and help him develop anyways. And as of right now, the Kings have not shown that they've had that infrastructure or the patience to do any of this. So patience, prudence, all that stuff, it's really nice. But they have to show it too. The Kings, as an organization, they have to show it. They can't just ask for it from their fan base and then not show it on the other side, which is what they've done quite a few times here. All right, let's get to final thoughts. Is there anything else? I know Parker, you hate the Valanciunas trade. You mentioned that.
Get in line.
Yeah.
I've been on like a little trivia kick recently, playing a
Oh,
lot of random games, whether that's like, show me a flag of a random country and give me 4 options. What is this? Or like filling out US states and stuff. So I'm curious
What?
to you two fellows real quick and
Go ahead.
debaters. Capital of Connecticut is what?
Hartford.
Okay. I would have had no clue.
James beat me to it though.
Capital of Kansas?
Wichita, right?
No,
That seems wrong.
No, it's
Topeka.
Oh,
That's right.
Damn it.
See, I never would have got this. Alaska?
Juneau.
Yeah, Juneau.
There's a good one. Let's see, what else do we have in here?
Been to Alaska.
Maryland?
Montgomery? No, that's the county.
It's not Baltimore. Ooh.
I don't remember.
I knew this at one point too. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
knew all of them.
Annapolis. Am I saying that
Annapolis.
right?
Okay. Yep, Annapolis.
Just interesting. There were a couple to me, and I could
Did you go to
locate
school,
states
Brenden?
very well. Sean, yes, I did. You gotta brush up every once in a while.
Yeah,
You gotta
okay,
brush up
that's
every
fair.
once in a while. You're gonna remember
That's
Topeka for a couple weeks now. So you're
Yeah, well,
welcome.
Sure
Topeka. Nice. That's awesome.
Great
I
line
can
involving.
locate pretty well of where the states are, but New Hampshire, Delaware, I really struggled with those two.
Do you know Vermont and its
Or
state
sorry, that's
capital?
what I struggled with. It was Vermont and New Hampshire. Well, I might have the list over here. So
I did my
Montpel-
5th grade
How do you say it,
report
though?
on Vermont, and I'm trying to remember.
Montpelier, however you say it. I don't know. How you
yeah,
say it,
you're
though.
there. You're there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boy.
South
Yeah,
Dakota.
there we go. There we go, Mark. Topeka.
Almost
I only
Famous
know her.
has a phenomenal Topeka scene.
Oh.
One of my favorites.
That's awesome.
Great movie. By the way, Brennan has never seen that movie, and he should. Absolute tremendous movie.
Yeah, he has. He has not seen that. He hasn't seen anything. We've already gone over this, Sean. He's
No.
just a
This is how he
bitter
spends his time.
disappointment. He's just a horrible disappointment. I
Julie-
deal with the same thing. Kyle Madsen hasn't seen anything.
What?
Like,
What do you
come
mean?
on,
Like what?
Kyle. Like
Kyle,
he hasn't.
but
he
in
hasn't
fairness,
watched-
Kyle knows himself some pop culture, though.
He does.
What does
Oh
that
yeah.
mean?
Well,
You
yeah. I
don't
think
know shit
Brendan's-
about pop culture, pal. That's what that means.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of true.
Yeah.
Ninja Style 916. I think that's what Ninja Style 916. No, I would not trade for Embiid if you got 2 to 3 first-round picks.
No.
His contract is an albatross that would sink a franchise. And you might as well let Philadelphia be that franchise. Okay, let's get to final thoughts. What do we got for final thoughts after Brendan's fun game of not knowing state capitals?
There's some tough ones in there.
There's some tough ones there.
I think your Sac State Hornet football team will have a head coach by Friday.
Someone new? You already got it?
There's a few names that are popping around, but I think they'll have something by Friday. I think that'll be in place.
Okay, I'm going to ask this. Sorry, I know this is a Kings Beat podcast when we talk Kings, but like, are they going to make another mistake? Because the Brandon Marion thing looks like an absolute disaster. Where not only does he bail after 1 year, but now all of his players are entering in the transfer portal, and you're like, oh my gosh, we were famous for 3 seconds, and this guy just took his cowboy hat and left town.
Here's the thing. Them's the breaks in college sports these days. There's no loyalty. There's NIL. This is professional sports now. So they're wanting to be a FBS school. Whether or not that happens or not, guys, they only have 4 games on schedule for next year so far. So there's some work to do. There's some work to do. It's not great, but get the right person in there. Hopefully they're committed to your program for at least 3 years. See what they can do. To Brenden Marion's credit, though, brilliant recruiter, and it's one of the reasons why you see him in Colorado now. And he's not a head coach, but probably next in line, and he's bounced around his whole career. So there's plenty of people who sign up to have him as an offensive coordinator. Sac State gave him a head coaching job. He was able to do it, but I don't think anyone was looking at Brenden Marion coming to Sacramento State and being here for the long haul.
Okay. So
I think it's just a landscape that you have to get used to, and the schools that don't will become fewer and further between. Like, you just won't see many schools, like Davis, for example. You've got a lot of guys that have some loyalty who come back, and they're in the second round of the playoffs. They get to host Illinois State, who they trounced last year in the opening round of the playoffs. So we'll see how that all plays out, but they're happy where they're at, and Sac State has some grand visions for their future. We'll see if that comes true or not, but
it seems a little get-rich-quickie scheme for Sac State, and that's
like
just
Amway.
Yeah, it's just not the good way to do it. Like, how about you? Again, you brought up Davis. I'm a Davis guy. Jim Les has been there forever. The head coach of football program has been there for
a couple of years now. Tim Plow. And he's a
long time
university guy who he was under Dan Hawkins, and he's a former Aggie himself. So
so sometimes it pays to like develop your talent and keep it in house and not go chase flashy things, shiny objects. So,
and lastly, just since totally off topic, but six teams from the Sac Joaquin section, our area, advanced to the state football championships. You got Folsom, St. Mary's. Actually, that's not true, because there was Winters. They're from the north section, but Sutter, Calaveras, and Sonora. I think I got all of them. So they will all be down in Southern California playing for state championships. And if you didn't see the Folsom game, by the way, first of all, St. Mary's from Stockton, they come back. Like, they're always rallying from deficits. They come from 17 down, come from they just have a knack for coming back and winning. They got a receiver, Kenny Moore III. He's going to UCLA. And then you've got, someone like Folsom, who loses Ryder Lyons, has their star quarterback. He hasn't been totally ruled out in this last the NorCal game. And their backup, Brody Rudnicki, who would be a stud anywhere else, is a junior. He's waiting for his turn and comes in, leads 2 scoring strikes. They rally from 18 down to go to state. Just really incredible stuff. And it's fun. For me, it's such a cool palate cleanser, because the Kings are so damn disappointing and tough to watch. And a lot of this kind of gets a little monotonous, but it's why I like doing what I do, because there's a lot of things that kind of occupy, and steal the attention a little bit away sometimes. And this is one of them. So cool.
And Sean will be there in LA, so make sure you guys are tuning into KCRA, because he's not shamelessly promoting the fact that he will be there, and he should be. So watch his coverage for all the local high school football stuff. Brenden, what do you got for us?
My palate cleanser is going to be a 44-year-old that's suiting up for Indianapolis this weekend. I am hyped about Phillip Rivers for no good reason.
Did you get yourself a jersey?
No, No, I think it's probably not going to go well. And I love all of his interviews. Sound like he's just as confused by this whole thing as everybody else in the world seems to be. They asked him what his weight is, and he's like, I don't know. Like, I haven't checked in a while. Like, what is happening right now? I am having a great time watching, gonna see what's going on with Phillip Rivers and just football in general. I had a good time watching like Fernando Mendoza in Indiana end up winning their Big Ten championship. I'm getting more into college football here as we're trying to get more familiar. I really need a team, fellas, and I don't have one. Like it
For
would be
college
San
football?
Jose State, but like I want to watch better teams, to be honest. And so I don't really know how to go about this, but yeah, I'm toeing the water a little bit with college football. I'm trying to get a little bit more in here. Football in general this season. So Phillip Rivers, Kyle Shanahan, coach of the year, even though he's not going to get that.
Should be.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, by the way,
Guys.
what Phillip Rivers will be? Not in if he gets to play, not in his first game, but like the very next week. Because that dude's gonna be feeling some stuff.
Oh yeah, and he's playing good defenses.
Yeah, he starts out with Seattle and then gets to play San Francisco. Yeah, I would say, although San Francisco doesn't put any pressure on the quarterback, so he might be okay in that one if he survives the first one. I don't know if he's going to survive the first one. I mean, dude hasn't played since 2020. Sorry, and he's 44 years old. I don't know what's happening there. I get it. He's been talking to Shane Steichen for months. Because he's been coaching high school football and he was running the same offense and he knows the offense, and they were together with the Colts. They were together with the Chargers and all that stuff. I don't care, man. You're away from the game for 5 years, and man, Phillip Rivers has 10 kids and a grandchild. What the hell? And he's going out there. I would.
Is he the first grandfather to be? No, because Unitas had to have been. How old was Unitas when he stopped?
I think George Blanda. It was older.
If you're a grandfather and you're a
48.
quarterback.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I like it's a little scary. I hope that he makes it through unscathed. I'd hate to see him like blow out a knee or get a major concussion or something like that. It's just tough. Yeah, it's brutal. Okay. Final thoughts from me. Let's see. Go Aggies. I think that's it. UC Davis plays Saturday at 2 p.m. They host. Is it St. Louis?
No, Illinois State.
Illinois State. That's what it is. Oh, I knew that. Yeah. I mean, they just keep winning. Their quarterback has been phenomenal. He's won Offensive Player of the Weeks like multiple times. The kid you mentioned at Indiana. Brenden
Mendoza.
Yeah, he was at Cal, and they were able to get him to leave and go there. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what Davis has this weekend and see if they can keep it rolling.
Shout out to your school, by the way, too, because it's an academic school, so finals week, and you've got a second round of playoffs. And how about this? Up until just a few hours ago, the dorms close on Friday. And that means that Friday, the students wouldn't have had a place to stay if you were living in those dorms, in which case Saturday is the playoffs, and who knows what happens beyond that. So UC Davis made the right call to keep the student housing open for those athletes who are playing football for that university, because they would have essentially been homeless and still been playing in the playoffs. I don't know how you get to that point, but somehow somebody made it happen. I don't know how or why that would ever have been a scenario, but they did. They got it fixed.
Yeah, we've so my son is going through finals right now, Davis. He had his last 2 days, and then he's got 2 more, one tomorrow, one on Friday. And we've had kids that he's friends with at UCs that literally they get locked out of the dorms and they've got nowhere to go, and they end up in my game room, like hanging out for a couple of weeks during Christmas breaks or spring breaks. Man, when they shut down a dorm, it's like, hey, get out. See ya. Really strange. So it's kind of cool. All right.
Is this guy losing his mind in the chat right now? I'm just trying to Ryan, my sweetheart murder. Great name. Can I see that? Can I see that up on the big board? I got to see what that.
Yeah. Do you think the franchise should build through the draft? So many mistakes. What's your guys' opinions on that? Am I crazy? Oh, he does not think that they should build through the draft. Look, I'm not
Didn't
saying
we
don't
answer
build
this?
through the draft. Yeah, we did answer this earlier, Ryan. I personally, I think you can build through the draft, but you have to be really lucky and really good, and actually you have to be really lucky and really good. It's not just one or the other. You have to be both, and even still, it's going to take 2, 3, 4 years before you're actually running full speed with one of these kids. And the Kings will need to do that 3 or 4 times in order to build a squad. And so I get it. Like a lot of people feel that that's the best way to do it. I think it's one avenue to get better. I also think there are other ways to get better. I just like I would explore everything at this point, and I'm not mortgaging my future away, but I certainly am looking at different ways to make myself better, like very quickly. So, just my own
Yeah.
opinion.
Yep. What were those mechanisms again? All 4, James?
There's only 3.
Keep doing
Just
4.
4.
He's just making shit up now,
There
Sean.
might be
Luck in
5
there.
because luck might have to be in there twice.
Yeah, not. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. If I can get better, I would try to get better because you don't have a 1A. I get it, but like that doesn't mean that you can't develop somebody, and that you can't trade for a guy who becomes a 1A. Like it does happen. It happened with Tyrese Halliburton. It happened with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's not like you can't actually trade for somebody who gets better. So I don't know. We'll see. All right. I think that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. Thanks for tuning in. A lot of you guys are up late. It's 10:30. There's 150 people in here. If you guys don't mind, hit the thumbs up for us. That'd be greatly appreciated. And subscribe to the channel. Go to thekingsbeat.com. Do all that stuff. And we'll see you very soon. We'll be back next week. So for KCRA 3, Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. I'm James Ham, King Satter for ESPN 1320 of the Kings Beat. See you very soon.
I did it.